automation. So without further ado, let's welcome our very first speaker today. I'm excited to have with us Yiannis Broustas, who is a product marketing leader, global product marketing leader at Salonis. Yiannis, go ahead and bring up your camera. I'll do a brief introduction and let you carry on from here. So Yiannis is a process analytics and task mining thought leader in the organization, also a thought leader in artificial intelligence, digital transformation, and intelligent automation. He has embarked on a global artificial intelligence journey for more than a decade ago and continuously seek to help stakeholders leverage their powers towards a more intelligent yet sustainable future. He has implemented advanced applications of machine learning within pre-seed, seed, series A, B, C startups and Fortune 500 organizations, combining product, marketing, and business development, sales, and expertise. Yiannis, we're very grateful to have you with us. Very much looking forward to your presentation today.
Yeah, I was muted. Thanks a lot, Jose. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody, depending on where you are in the world. Thank you so much for joining me for this beautiful day. Jose, can you confirm that we can see my screen and the first slide of my presentation?
It's looking good, Yiannis, yes.
Perfect. So thank you very much. And for the next 30-35 minutes, I want to take you through the journey that Salonis is actually in towards process excellence. And we're going to focus on how we can combine different sets of data that come both from our backend systems, and we call this business data, but also from how people really execute their tasks, really get work done. And that's what Salonis task mining is actually helping us do. So within that context, I want to give a very brief introduction on Salonis in case as people in the audience don't know exactly what Salonis is. We are a company based in Munich and New York City. We started about 10 years ago, and I'll go into a bit of history in the next couple of slides. And we are the global leader in process mining technology. We are trying to make your business frictionless, and we want to drive your desired business outcomes by AI-driven automation and process improvements and actions that go straight into your systems, into your front-end data as well. So if we look at the history of process excellence, it first started, I would say, more than 10, maybe around 20 years ago, when we started mapping our processes. It meant that we would use a lot of whiteboarding and a lot of post-its to actually design and share with each other how the process should look like. And then based on human interviews, one-to-one interviews, you could go in and say, okay, what do you think your process is, and how do you compare it with how it should have been? Following that, we moved to process discovery, which was something that I think is the topic of this webinar, of this conference, which was the question of how to get visibility into your processes and really impact them, change them, and adjust them compared to where you wanted them to be. However, the next level, the next generation, is how do you achieve process excellence in order to drive your outcomes. So not only you can map your processes, not only you can visualize them, but now you can intervene, find the next best action, and leverage AI predominantly to actually improve the KPIs that you're focusing on and achieve the goals that your organization is really caring for. So a bit of an outline about Salonis. I'm going to start with my favorite Harvard Business Review quote, that you should be exploring process mining. As simple as that. It's a very simple quote that encapsulates why process mining has been in such an upward trajectory in the last decade or so. And Salonis is named the market leader by Gartner in 2019, and we're expecting something similar from the new report coming out soon. We have been doubling ourselves year on year, and we have had more than 2,000 customer deployments. If you look at the small logos in terms of size, but these are really massive companies that we're working with, and the analyst endorsements and the global press coverage is always talking about how process mining is really changing the way these companies operate and how it helps them achieve their results. So the industries that process mining can work with, and that's one of the beauties of process mining and consequently of Salonis, is that it's an industry agnostic and it's a role agnostic technology. We've worked with manufacturing, we've worked with life sciences, consumer goods, retail, logistics, telecommunications, and with people who are users are in supply chain, they're in finance, in IT, in R&D, because any organization that goes above a certain size has processes. Any process that has data, process mining can actually work with it. So getting a bit deeper, going a bit deeper into the topic of today, the objective of any process mining solution out there, and of course of Salonis, is to provide the 360 degrees process insight in order to drive intelligent action in order to achieve your business outcomes. And in this triad of steps, none of the steps should be discounted or should be considered as a given, because the process insight will drive the action and the business outcomes are going to drive which actions are the ones to be taken. So why talk about task mining today, and why combine task mining with process mining? So for the last decade of growth, we've been looking at our business data, SAP, Salesforce, Oracle, or all our backend systems and the processes that go with the customer journey, the procure to pay, the order to cash, and so on and so forth. But the reality is, at the same time, we have people that work in these processes and they execute them. And there are always steps that happen in between that are closely connected with how people execute these processes. And this is where desktop data comes in. And that includes, how people will look up information on an Excel sheet to move an SAP process step further, or how they're browsing the internet to find specific information, or how they're emailing each other in order to achieve the desired goal in executing their tasks. And with task mining, what task mining allows you to do is you complete that 360-degree process insight, because you combine those two types of data, the business data and the desktop data, and it gives you perspective on how the manual tasks are executed. So the benefits of that is, first of all, you are able to discover inefficiencies that live outside your backend systems. So traditional process mining definitely is amazing for finding inefficiencies in your backend systems. However, task mining takes that one step further, and it helps you understand those inefficiencies that are not in your event logs. At the same time, it allows you to quantify the value of streamlining your end-to-end processes. So it adds to the quantification that you would get from process mining by being able to quantify the cost, the opportunity, the savings, the actual final outcome, if you can streamline end-to-end both business data, business processes and desktop manual activities. And at the end, it also optimizes workforce productivity. And I want to add an angle to that. We are all living through the COVID-19 challenges in the last 6-7 months or so, and our processes have changed without us knowing or without us selecting how these changes would happen. So task mining is a great tool to help you understand how your workforce is working from home, how your processes have changed, and how you can really get the best insight on either fixing those processes, changing them, or even helping you understand things like training. How do I train my people now that they are not in the same office and they all work from home? The way task mining works is that it captures desktop data, it runs in the background, and it collects clicks, scrolls, and user actions when an allow listed application is being used. That means that only when your users, your employees are using applications that are selected by you and are closely connected to the process, that's where task mining is monitoring and it's actually capturing this data to make sure that the processes are executed in the best possible way. Then we leverage OCR and AI in order to add context and to cluster these activities together in order to then match them to the business data. And what the magic here is that we scan through the noise. You can scan through the noise with task mining and attach the manual tasks to the business step, to the case ID that you're actually trying to analyze. And the process starts with Windows desktops. That's where task mining is the most efficient in. And then the Intelligent Business Cloud of Salonis takes over the work of doing the contextualization and the matching to the business data. So the use case I want to talk about, because I know the audience is way more advanced than a general audience in process mining, is to show you and talk about how we can extend process mining with task mining. The benefits of that is that task mining allows you to create a true digital twin with your granular manual steps. So it's not only that you can create a twin based on your backend systems, but you can also understand how your company operates also from a manual perspective. You can see what manual steps are involved in all the activities, and it can, as I said, you can act based on these outcome-driven next best action recommendations. And with that, I'm going to start with a demo, and I'm going to take you in this hypothetical scenario of an accounts payable department. So this specific accounts payable department has been facing a lot of pressure from other internal teams because of how they were charging them for treating their invoices. So the challenge they're facing is, how can we actually know what we do with our AP process, with our accounts payable processes, in order to be able to justify, explain, and come up with a true cost model that can then be used in our discussions with our internal partners. So the four KPIs that this AP department is trying to optimize is standardization. In other words, how do I standardize my process? Handling time, how much time do I actually spend handling those invoices? First time write rate, which means how can I just have how can I have more touchless invoices without having to intervene manually? And then cycle time. What's the cycle time that I will actually need to manage this process? So the first thing that you get with task mining is an application overview, and this is interesting to see, because you get the full view of how your backend and your front-end systems are used. So in this case, because it's accounts payable, so there's a lot of invoices, people go on and off SAP. So you see a very high SAP percentage of task mining. However, if you go to other processes, you will see that number dropping significantly. However, you can see that people are also collaborating with teams. They're sending emails. They're using Word, PowerPoint, and Excel at a certain extent. They're browsing, and in general, you can see what programs and what applications they are using to execute their tasks in this specific process. And one of the most powerful things about process mining and task mining is that you can combine your process mining steps and your task mining steps in one process explorer. In this case, in blue, you can see your backend systems steps, and then in red, you can see the steps that were captured by task mining. And as you add more and more steps, you can immediately see that all your processes are at the end interconnected, and people do jump on and off their desktop. They do have manual tasks that they're working with in order to actually achieve or actually complete their tasks. So if we go to standardization, you can immediately have a view on which applications are used, what are the hops. So if you see in this specific view, you can see how people hop between application, and obviously in this case, SAP logon is the one that is used the most. What are the drill down, and what's the average handling time by the different materials? And when it comes to handling time, you can see that actually your total handling time has been improving recently. But I want to focus a bit more on the first time right rate for the purpose of today. And you see that our rate is at 70%, which is definitely not ideal. A good accounts payable first time rate, so touchless invoice rate, would be above probably like 90%, which means that and that should be the target, or let's say 80%, 80 to 90% would be a good enough target. But this 70% means that we are doing a lot of manual steps and a lot of rework in order to manage to treat these invoices. So if we start drilling a bit down on what this what's causing this, we see that actually change quantity is something that happens pretty often. So it is something that happens pretty often. At the same time, it's something that shouldn't happen because an invoice should have the correct quantities. So if we filter down in this change quantity step, we realize that every invoice that goes through that has a significantly increased number of rework steps, which is they're up by more than 50%. And what we need to do here, we need to understand here, is we need to focus on how to improve this KPI. So by immediately taking action, we're moving to what we call in Salonis an action engine, which is a personal inbox. So in this case, I'm wearing the hat of an accounting department clerk. I am Yiannis, and I receive these notifications from Salonis on things I could intervene in order to improve my my KPI, in order to improve the way that I actually do my work. So by selecting, but by actually filtering on the one that has the higher impact in terms of gross amount, I click on it, and immediately Salonis tells me that in 89% of the relevant cases, accounting clerks check a specific Excel sheet called EMEA OS vendors. So not only I get that insight and I'm able to understand why, what is causing the problem and how people are solving it, but Salonis allows me to immediately take action and check that specific Excel sheet from within Salonis in order to do my work much faster, much easier for the specific invoice. And by implementing some of these automations, and I'm not gonna take your time for talking much more about it today, I'm immediately able to realize that my first time rate has been climbing over the last 3-4 months, from 70% that it was, it's now at 82%. And if we continue on the trajectory, we're gonna soon be above 85, close to 90% in due time. So with that in mind, I wanted to just end the presentation part of today by sharing with you the fact that extending process mining with task mining allows you to get an even fuller picture than what you have before. So we talked about process excellence and how it can be achieved. We talked about how process mining can be combined with task mining. We saw a demo, an example of how an accounts payable department could actually intervene and resolve or improve their KPIs. And now, what I invite you is to first of all, I want to thank you for attending today, and I would like to open the floor with a bit longer of a discussion through Q&A, since I think it's a topic which is very, very interesting, and it takes process mining to a step or a few steps further. So with that in mind, please, thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to having an open dialogue.
Very good, Yiannis, very good. So I'm going to ask you to stop sharing your presentation so that the audience can see you. And as we go through that, I'm keeping an eye here on the questions that the audience has, and I will prioritize those questions. So keep providing your questions. We have an eye on those. Yiannis, you go into the GoToWebinar panel, and there is under sharing, there is a button to stop sharing. So if you click on that stop sharing button, yeah, there you go. You got it, man. You got it. Well done. So let's see what we have here. We have first question that has come up, Yiannis, is that lots of commentary about great insights. You got into an overview and then you got into some details on how process mining and task mining can work together. Back up a little bit, and when you go work with a new client that has not done anything before, maybe their IT infrastructure, doesn't even know what process mining really is. Guide us through these steps that you think are the optimal steps for someone who's starting in a journey of process mining, from what type of IT infrastructure and manpower they should have to support this effectively, to some of the steps that you carry on with them on implementing process mining with the goal of scaling over time.
That's a great question, Jose, and it's a question that we tend to answer every single time. Process mining, for good or bad reasons, is not something that people have top of mind. It's not that you have executives waking up and saying, oh, I need to do process mining tomorrow. So there is always a certain level of education that we all have to go through. And obviously, most companies that are going, or I would say all companies that go through their digital transformation journey, they have heard about big data and challenges and noise, and how do you actually solve through these problems. Process mining, and especially the way Salonis approaches it, has really moved the needle away from that issue. We start by a very simple but very powerful point, which is the event. And events are captured in any event log of any system that you actually use and you actually have in your organization. And based on that, we can really separate from the noise that other types of data would have. By building by quickly integrating, and Salonis has more than 80 connectors to any system or most of the systems that companies have today, and we also have collaborations with customers who have homegrown systems. You are able to very quickly, in like we actually our promise to our new customers is that they're up and running in a matter of a couple of weeks. So actually they realize value in 30 days. That's actually our Salonis promise, because very quickly, by connecting with the systems, you're able to capture the data that you need in order to paint the picture of how the process actually operates. If we add the task mining aspect of it, by using task mining on the desktop, you immediately get data like on the same day. So building your task mining side of your data model is as fast, if not faster, than how you're building your process mining. So I would actually turn that question back to anyone and say, tell us what your outcome is. What are you trying to achieve? What is keeping you up at night when it comes to your KPIs? Let us understand. Let us take the journey together into which processes you are using for that specific KPI, and then our technology will do the work of understanding them and helping you take the next best action.
Very good, Yiannis. And other questions I have surfaced here, and again, audience, keep asking the questions. I'm gonna capture as many of these as possible during the time that we have here. The other question has to do about typical implementation timelines, and let's kind of put some barriers around, constraints around that. Let's say, for example, on the example that you share with us related to maybe reducing cycle times on the accounts payable process. What does it, I mean, of course, different sizes of organizations and complexity levels will play a role in this, but typically, if you get a bit of the average case, what does it look like in terms of implementation timelines? How much time is on the upfront investigation, if you will, and then the discovery process? Okay. Can you hear me now? Yeah, your video has stopped there momentarily. Is your audio still on? Are you able to hear us?
Jose, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Your audio is frozen, which is okay, but I can hear you. If you're able to just use, I'm sorry, your video is frozen. If you're able to hear us, we can carry on that way.
Yeah, sorry for that. I don't know what's going on with my connection. I can hear you very well, and I think the video will come back.
Yeah, no problem. And honestly, if you need to turn off the video so that, you know, it doesn't hog your bandwidth, that's totally fine as well. The question that, yeah, that's good. The question that we had was, if you get a bit of a typical case, an accounts payable process cycle time reduction effort, like the one you just shared with us, guide us on what a typical implementation timeline may look like. How much time on each one of the main stages on doing that type of work?
Yeah, so that's what I was referring to earlier. That's actually our Salonis promise is that you can get up and running in 30 days. So you can not only integrate, but actually start achieving your goals within that time frame. So we get connected to your systems with our connectors. We are able to start building the necessary data models out of that, and immediately you get views that you can use in order to drive your actions. So obviously, I don't want to jump into telling you that everybody's going to get actions in 10 days, but within a matter of weeks, not months, we're able to achieve that for any organization of any size. One of the biggest advantages, especially of Salonis, is the enterprise readiness of our platform that allows any size, any type of organization to join the journey, and you can see that by the type of organizations that we're already working with.
Very good. Tell us a little bit more about the task mining aspect of the activities here. What type of I mean, are you sending a client to, you know, some sort of utility or application to the operator, if you will, to the individual who's installing that on their desktop, laptop, and is leveraging their cameras and microphones and things like that? What type of capabilities do you have with that? NLP, AI, what are the things running behind that? So discuss a little bit more about the sensor portion and the data process that takes place.
Yeah, so task mining gets installed on the organization's desktops, or at least on the users that are important for the specific process, and it works in the background in the same way that you have a Dropbox app, for example, that only gets activated when a pre-selected application is being used. So if the system administrator says, I only want you to monitor how people Slack each other, how my agents Slack each other for the specific process, task mining will only capture the data from that specific process. That means that the full freedom and the full security lies with the organization that is using the technology. So the system administrator is able to take that and leverage it to their benefit. Now, as of that point, there are different technologies that we leverage. There is a screenshot capturing capability where you enable OCR, or you leverage OCR to capture some contextual information from those screenshots. There are other technologies that we are able to create a new event log out of the tasks that people do on the desktops. For example, which windows they have used, timestamps, their clicks, their scrolls. So you're able to create this whole data lake or data set, that data event log from how they really execute the tasks, only again for the applications that they are using or that their administrator has selected as allow listed. I want to also bring up the security point here, because you talked about cameras and microphones. We don't use any of that. We don't get into anybody's cameras or microphones. We not only that, but we also obscure any personal data or any emails, passwords, any of that it's everything is, it doesn't come to us, everything stays with the user. And we have really taken extreme measures to make sure that this is the most secure solution, while at the same time giving the freedom to the customer, to the organization, to select which parts of the processes they want to actually capture data from.
Very good, very good. William Fuller has a question here related to the typical attributes of the individuals who analyze the mine data. So you do this exploration, you collect the data, if you will, and now you're doing some analysis there. What type of backgrounds those individuals have? Maybe technical backgrounds, continuous improvement and innovation backgrounds. Just curious about what you see in terms of education, experience, kind of qualifications that people have for analyzing this mine data to decide on improvements and innovations.
So we don't use any humans to analyze this data. All this data is analyzed by the IBC, the Intelligent Business Cloud. So all data we have, both business data and desktop data, they're all uploaded into our Intelligent Business Cloud, which is our Salonis cloud infrastructure, and it's all done by the cloud. There is no human intervention into actually analyzing the data. So I'm not sure if I can answer the question, because this actually doesn't happen with task mining. So I hope I addressed it as best as I can.
Well, that's a really interesting point, because I think that there is a perception that that once you mine the data, if you will, and you have that new insights, that there is that I think for most people it's a bit surprising that there is no human intervention, that the system is deciding the improvements and implementing those improvements in real time. There is no like, oh, let's look at this and try to understand what's going on here, because some of this could be some of this could be human behavior. So curious about, is that fully automated?
It's fully automated, and that's why the title of today's session is Artificial Intelligence with Process Mining and Task Mining. That's exactly where AI comes into play. So we leverage AI not only to capture the data and give it context, but we use AI to combine this data and drive the action. So that's why we're talking about AI-driven next best action. So absolutely no human intervention into analyzing this data. It all happens from our technology, and that's why we are able to have the scale or the enterprise level readiness that we have. Because imagine, like, just let's take an example, right? If we are capturing screenshots and you use an application that is allowed listed for 10 minutes, and we capture one screenshot per second for 10 minutes, that means that we are talking about 600 screenshots. Like, there is no, and that's one user for only one application for 10 minutes. There is no, it's humanly impossible to be able to sit down and analyze those screenshots by yourself. Or if we are capturing the timestamps of a specific activity that happened on the desktop, and those activities are clicks or they're scrolls, imagine the number of data that human would have to go through. So absolutely done with AI, absolutely done with within our Intelligent Business Cloud, and that's what allows us to actually drive these actions, because we're able to quickly understand where the inefficiencies lay and what the next action would actually make, why the next action would actually make them go away.
Very good, Yiannis. One more on that. There's another follow-up related to that, and the question again goes back to this human interaction. What if the systemic issues that you're observing are driven by human mistakes and human error, and people just entering data wrong, people using a field incorrectly? How do you capture that?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. So that's one of the powers of task mining. So for example, there are a few ways to answer that. So I'm gonna give you two examples, and then you can tell me if we can go deeper into the topic. So for example, let's assume that you are an organization and you're very interested in some compliance regulations. So let's assume that there is a specific way that you need to manage a document, and there is a specific list of things that you need to do while you're checking that document. Task mining allows the organization to know exactly how each single document was checked, how much time was spent in each field, and what were the steps, the process steps that were followed throughout the process. So the data that you capture allows you to identify extremes. For example, if somebody says, or if task mining gives you the insight that a specific user went through the form, checked the form, and the form is 3 pages, and he did it in 1 second, that immediately triggers an action of double checking that form. So you can what the action is from Salonis is that it takes that, like, first of all, it flags that that sounds irregular, so that it is below the threshold of what the normal checking time is. And then the second step is to send that same document to a second approver, to a second checker, in order to arrive to that point. So that's one case. The other case that you could actually find mistakes is by cohorting, let's use that term, of cohorting behaviors. So you can, with task mining combined with process mining, you can identify behavioral patterns. You can understand what's the best way to execute a specific task. And when you build your process map, you can drill down, and we call this the spaghetti process explorer. You can drill down even to the individual variant of why one particular case or 10 particular cases compared to 10,000, that is the total, were done differently, and whether this is a mistake or not. So the power of automating all this data capturing and visualizing it with a process explorer, which combines process mining and task mining, is that you're able to identify those inefficiencies even to the individual level. And I hope that answers the question, but I'm happy to follow up if not.
Yeah, one final wrap on that then. So how does the feedback get back to that individual who may be unaware that he or she is making a mistake? Maybe they need a little bit more training on something. How do you close the loop with that individual?
Yeah, and I'm gonna refer back to the demo that I just showed you. This is what at Salonis we call the action engine. So that individual would receive a signal that we identified that you've done this process step in a way that is not the recommended one. Can you please correct it now, and maybe, I don't know, get a training on how it should be done, so you can drive actions directly from the system that can be executed with the click of a button. So yes, it's a great question. It's all automated, and that's one of the big benefits and powers of Salonis.
Very powerful stuff. Very powerful stuff. Let me scan here for, there are lots of questions, so let me scan here for the next one. This one comes from Anna Martinez, and Anna is saying, first of all, great presentation. Your product really helps organizations improve their processes. Do you see some departments question the data once it's live, or the data accuracy? Based on what you demonstrated, I think I know what you're going to say, but I want to hear directly from you. Do you have issues when you mine the data, the AI is making its decisions on the background, but the organizations may still question that?
And I think it ties back to a question that you asked me earlier. We don't do any transformation to the data. We base the data on the organization's event logs, right? So if your event log tells you that this is an event, like, obviously we can have a discussion, but at the end of the day, there is no human intervention, neither into the analysis nor into the action that needs to be taken. So at the end of the day, you're right, we can sit down and have a look, but I'll give you a task mining example, since we were talking about just before. You have the screenshot. You can just open the screenshots and have a look and say, do you agree that this is a screenshot of how the specific document should have been treated? And you can actually go and check. And I thank Anna for the question, because it's one of, and it's not a Salonis question, it's a process mining question. I understand why organizations who are asked to invest in process mining and who are given recommendations that could be in the millions, right? You give a recommendation and the impact of the intervention could save that organization millions. I absolutely understand why the organization would want to be sure that this is actually accurate data. And I'm going to talk from at least the Salonis experience. I don't want to talk on behalf of other process mining solutions, but from Salonis, we never had an issue with data inaccuracy when it comes to our process mining visualization, understanding interventions, and driving the action. And that's why our customers speak on our behalf, because at the end of the day, we base, as I said before, there's no manual intervention. We base everything on AI and actual data of the organization.
Very good. Another question here, this one coming from Joseph Lackey, and Joseph says, working in the oil and gas industry, there were problems with SAP connectivity with vendor supply chains. This created a communication problem in getting on-time deliveries because sometimes the vendors never had the latest software updates from SAP to facilitate the communication. Does a Salonis platform help resolve this kind of supply side problems with enterprise systems like SAP?
So I'm gonna try and answer the question. I'm not exactly sure what the problem was. So, I'm gonna shoot in the dark a bit because I'm not sure exactly what it entails.
Let me rephrase this real quick, Yiannis. And I agree, because when I first read, I wasn't quite clear what he said, because I think he's talking about the fact that the part of it is deficiencies on the data set itself, that let's say you're working with an oil and gas company, you're connecting to their SAP system, but their SAP system has a certain reality, if you will, but they need to connect with vendor systems that may not be accurate on some of their on-time deliveries, for example. And now all of a sudden you're mining that information. So I guess part of the question is that, would you, process mining, identify that issue, some sort of node on communication with suppliers that information may not be accurate? Is that something that process mining can get you?
Yeah, and I would like to talk about another Salonis feature that we are really proud of, called the multi-event log. And that multi-event log is a unique Salonis offering. We've announced it and released it a few months ago, and it allows you to not only go through one single process and analyze that one, but it allows you to combine different processes into one event log and understand cross-process inefficiencies and cross-process interventions. So again, I don't want to jump the gun here and really tell you this is the answer to this specific problem, but the multi-event log, for example, is widely used by purchase to pay and order to cash processes combined, because your order to cash, when you have to deliver to your customers, is closely dependent with your purchase to pay. If you don't have the right product in your warehouses, or if you don't have the raw material to produce the right product in your warehouses, your on-time delivery drops. When you can combine the two processes and understand efficiencies, the system can actually, Salonis, the technology can flag you and can flag those inefficiencies and say, listen, this supplier has been underperforming, or their accuracy of their information is really suboptimal in the last 2 months, in the last 3 months. So we recommend you to potentially evaluate this other supplier, or we recommend you to actually place an order 10 days earlier than what you normally do. And when you do that, it goes downstream to your order to cash, and it allows you to really improve your own warehousing, optimize your payment terms, and then optimize the deliveries to your customers. So I think if I capture the problem correctly, absolutely, this is something that process mining in general and Salonis in particular is capable of doing.
Very good, Yiannis. Excellent answer. Our time is up, so I want to make sure I'll thank you. Very good review. We went from very strategic, high-level overview to very much in the weeds, tactical stuff, which is where we solve real problems. And very good coverage. We appreciate you sharing your expertise with our global audience today.
Thank you, Jose, and thank you to the audience. It was a great pleasure to be among you today.
Thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes this first segment of Process Mining Live today. We're going to close the session and we're going to open back up at the top of the hour with Yiannis Minis. And Yiannis is going to talk to us about the applications of process management in a COVID-19 world. So that's going to be a different type of session where we have an industry leader and a global change leader sharing with us how COVID-19 has impacted us, and specifically how you apply some of these process management approaches to this new world in which we're living in. So thank you for your participation. I'll see you back in a few minutes at the top of the hour.